Hello folks, this is David Hurley of EasyChessTips.com, your pub chess bluffer, reporting on yet another game I played with my chess student, Dr. M, who happened to give me a nice summer gift, Old Chugen it's called in Japan, of a box of Yebisu beers, which I am now slowly and rather fragilely working my way through today. Strictly, this is a hair of the dog kind of drink, due to here's some more larks I was having last night with Yebisu beer. Some rather pleasant company, so I'm feeling a bit tottery today in the old head and body department. So, hair of the dog, cheers. Thank you very much, Dr. M. Now, the game we played on Wednesday unfolded. The opening, we came out of a fairly standard opening, and there was one key move in this game which brought the downfall of the dog, who was playing as black. Excuse me, one moment. And as I was white, I began with d4, and we opened with the Slav Defence. Dr. M employed or attempted to employ the Slav Defence, which I think is a pretty solid defence against the white d4 opening. And we proceeded like so, which is all fairly standard. This is where things begin to move away from the standard repertoire that I'm familiar with. We have bishop to b4. I counter with bishop to d3. And as you can see, Lichess is recommending at this stage that black castle. However, that didn't happen. This is where we get the key mistake of the game. From this one bad move, everything unraveled for my opponent. And this was the move. You can see what the advantage bar does. Lichess really doesn't like this move very much at all, and it recommends a move which in fact I didn't do. I looked at it, but I didn't take this move. By advancing the pawn to b6 here in the 7th move, black is effectively giving up one minor piece. And if we follow the recommended move of queen to a4 check, you will see how this happens. The queen is both checking the king and attacking this unprotected bishop. So it forces black into this rather uncomfortable move of e6 to block the check and attempt to protect the bishop from the queen. And one way to go is simply to take the bishop. I think that's a bit risky, as the queen kind of can end up boxed in down here. So instead of that, what is recommended is the move of the bishop, as you can see here. Bishop to b5. And then with this set of exchanges here, white moves the bishop to b2 to protect the pawn from the rook. But you can clearly see white has a massive advantage, and white has 2 minor pieces, and black only has 1 minor piece. So white emerges from the opening with a clear advantage because of this unfortunate move of b6, the 7th move, b6. So let's go back and see what actually happened, because although I looked at this move briefly, I didn't move my queen to a4. Instead, I did what I guess would be one of my signature moves in playing against the Slav Defence, which is this a3 move here. There's several opening variations. I play this little a3 move at this stage to force the bishop either to take the knight or to retreat. And if the bishop retreats to a5, then the bishop will be trapped by the advance of the b pawn to b4. So the bishop should either take the knight or retreat back to somewhere down here. e7 is quite often where the bishop goes in this situation, sometimes d6. And so d6 is in fact where the doctor moved the bishop. Now you can see by not taking immediate advantage of this b5 b6 move by checking the king, I lose some of that massive advantage. In fact, the whole advantage seems to disappear. However, the game continued in my favor because of the second blunder, which is this one here. Later, my opponent explained that his aim was to get his knight over here. I think after castling and moving the rook in onto e8, the idea was to get the knight onto the back square. I think the knight, or perhaps even the bishop, I'm not quite sure. However, in the circumstances that we have on the board here with this layout, as you can see, this is a very strong move against this knight move here. And the reason is quite simple. It's that, or the reason as far as I can see is quite simple. It's that in moving the knight to d7, which is actually a fairly common destination square for the knight in this setup. But right now the timing is a bit unfortunate because it, having moved the knight to d7, the knight suddenly, having moved the bishop to having moved the bishop to d6 and then the knight to d7, the bishop is no longer protected by the queen. And so this immediate move is indeed what I did. And now we have the queen looking here at c7 and the knight also looking at c7 with the aim of forking the king and the bishop. The king and the rook. It was quite a heavy night last night. So anyway, let us take some medicine and proceed. So from here, I'm threatening to attack, to fork the king and the rook. And so we have, while also attacking, of course, the unprotected bishop. And the problem also for black is that this square now is very weak. And so if the bishop moves away from this diagonal, then the fork is on. And so the move that Lightes is recommending is probably the only good place to go with the bishop, to keep on that diagonal to protect this square. However, so the bishop now has moved twice. If we come back, we see we have this series of moves. The knight comes over, my knight goes in, the bishop moves back. But the bishop just before moved 1, 2. So we have this double move. It would have been better to have moved the bishop straight back to e7, I guess, in one go, but it still leaves this square very weak here. And so I jumped in to fork, and there's only one move, which is, I mean, of course, the queen could take the knight and would promptly fall. So king to f8, and down goes the rook. So although I didn't come out, I didn't go for the queen to a4 and to grab an immediate material advantage. I simply didn't calculate through the moves for that. These are quite short games. They only have 30 minutes each and no increment. So I tend to move quite swiftly when I can. But still, I come out with this nice advantage of picking up the rook by forking the king and the rook. So now what happens next is really a collapse like so. So you can see the bar is right up at the top. This is pretty much game over. There is a bit of counterplay, so we'll have a look at that. So we attack the queen. Now I think I'm just being greedy here. I pick up this bishop. Wow! I pick up the pawn with my bishop, but a threat of forking the bishop and the knight and a central advance is what Lightes recommends. Now, again, I looked at this, but I just thought, well, I'm ahead. I will just pick up another pawn and gradually increase my advantage. Now, this is where we get a little bit of counterplay, but it actually is completely ineffective. So I bring my bishop down to attack the bishop aiming at the king. And this is the recommended move by Leicester to pin my bishop to the queen. But that didn't happen. There was a piece grab. However, I wasn't going to play into that. I have this check here. So I do that, and that puts me now into a nice winning position. Yeah, I'm not. I just leave that bishop. I don't think I take it at all. I just keep attacking the king. And now from here, this is where I missed a couple of quick checkmates in this game, and this is one of them. If the queen comes here, that is game over. That is checkmate. But I didn't see that. I instead brought the rook over, like so. So it's still pretty overwhelming, but I have missed a checkmate. And now I'm aiming for the queen. I bring in one more rook. And so that bishop gets back in, but only briefly because the bishop is pinned to the king, so the queen falls. And here again, I miss my second checkmate. You can see if the queen comes back to here, queen comes back to c5, that's checkmate. But again, I missed it, and instead I moved my rook up. I mean, checkmate is coming. It's just that I'm going on the long road to checkmate. And that is checkmate. So that's how the game ended. And it was a rather unfortunate error in the 7th move of what had been a fairly solid opening up until that mistake of the b6 move. So we have here some fairly standard moves in the Slav Defence. On my side, actually, I was checking my opening repertoire notes, and John Watson recommends e3 at this stage in this setup. But e3 comes in anyway. And so from here, this is a nice setup. As you can see, it's all pretty equal. Then this, and there's nothing wrong with this move. This is a kind of Nimzo Indian style move, pinning the knight to the king. But it's from here where the error comes in, and it's this move here. Okay, so that was the opening error which caused the downfall of my chess student last Wednesday. But even so, I'm very grateful for the Olchugen, the summer gift, which is helping me to recover from last night's debauch. So that's all from the Pub Chess Bluffer. Until next time.